Welcome to Alaska's Real Estate Podcast. Lottie Michael and I have been doing business in real estate in the state of Alaska for between 40 and 50 years between each one of us separately. And we've decided that now is a good time for us to share our collective knowledge about real estate, both residential and commercially. And today we're going to start talking about trailer parks, which are really called
mobile home communities.
Mobile home communities. So even I have to increase my vocabulary when we're talking about the first step on the housing ladder towards home ownership and rental properties. I want to know, how does it work? Do they own their own modular home? Do they lease the land? Do they buy the land? Who pays for the utilities? How does it work? Not only for you as the investor, but for the owner or the tenant.
Okay, let's back up for a minute. I've been involved with the brokerage of mobile home park communities for 25, 30 years, probably sold more parks in the Alaska market than anyone.
So, Lottie, I just have to ask you, what is a mobile home park? From my own experience, I would have to tell you that I don't know anything at all about a mobile home park. I have probably only driven through a mobile home park once or twice in my real estate career. But I do understand that it is the entry level for housing. So talk to me about that and our audience.
Okay. A mobile home park is a community. It's families that live in a neighborhood. And if we can look at it in that light and see the residents as real people, real families, it's an easier way to understand it as an investment and as a housing option. So typically in the Alaska market and outside of Alaska, there's condominium type mobile home parks. We don't have that here in Alaska. What we have here is a park owner owns all of the real estate. The individual homeowners own their home, and that's what it is attractive to the residents. They want to own their home. They want to have ownership. They want to have a little fence and a dog. They don't want to have a tenant above them or below them or next door. So I think of it as the first rung of housing, but it's not to say that everybody in the park wants a stick-built house. That's not the case at all. We've got several families, 3 and 4 generations. We've got grandparents down the street. We've got parents across the street. We have a young couple just starting out, bought their first home. So we've got a real community. We know our residents in the park. At Christmas time, we give out turkeys and hams to different residents. September, we give out gift certificates so they can get school supplies for the children. It's a real community. And typically, the resident owns their home, they pay their utilities, they pay their gas and electric. Typically, water and sewer and refuse are the park's responsibility. Typically, that's how that works.
So I didn't realize that everybody in a park owned their residence, their property. Aren't there rentals also in mobile home parks?
That's a different business model, but yes, there's a large park in Anchorage that the park owns every unit. Those are called park-owned units. And that's just a different business model as a park owner or a park investor. It's just a different business model.
That would be like owning an apartment building or...
Exactly. Right. Exactly. They bought the park. They removed all the old units. They put in new infrastructure, new roads, very much like residential development, all the underground, all of that. And then they put in, instead of apartment building, they put in individual mobile homes, all brand new. And that was about 8 years ago in Anchorage. And it's been, I don't know the financials, but it appears to be a very successful investment for the park owner, and the residents seem to be very happy.
So you and I, and you invited me to the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting in Omaha, and it's the second time that you've invited me. And each time I've gone to visit the Clayton properties, and those are very fancy stick-built homes that can be transported. Are they mobile homes? What are they?
Those are manufactured housing. That's manufactured housing. So what you get with that is you get the economy of scale and you save some time. So it might save a little bit of money and it might save a little bit of time. So people buy the Clayton homes and put them in any subdivision or on a lake or a recreational area, or they fill up a park with them and sell the homes individually.
So in the parks that you went from selling to now in an ownership capacity, is it a good investment?
Everything's a good investment and everything's a bad investment. So you have to be a little bit more exacting. So yeah, everything can be a good investment and everything can be a bad investment. It just depends on how much you want to put into it and your measuring stick.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you have an hands-on property management company when it comes to these mobile home parks. So in subdivision development in today's world, we usually have a homeowners association, which handle complaints and all of that sort of thing. I get the impression that in a mobile home park, it's the owner that has a staff and manages all of that. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. We have on-site management. We have on-site security. We have on-site maintenance. So everything, it's a community within itself. So yeah.
I find that very interesting, actually. I've never really thought of mobile home parks as a community. I've always thought of it as this is where someone goes and rents a unit because they don't want to have, someone side by side or up or down, just like you explained. They want to have a little bit of yard. They probably want to have a dog or a pet of some sort. But I've never thought of them as being in a community. I've thought of them as sort of coming and going. But I guess that's my impression of if the units are rented as opposed ownership. How does that financing work? Can you buy a mobile home? Do you know how that works?
Yes. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, Alaska Housing, it was during the boom years, and Alaska Housing started making 30-year mortgages, which was not a good idea, on mobile home. Then the market crashed, and all of these mobile home, so many of the owners of the mobile homes just left, went back to wherever they came from, Texas or Oklahoma. So Alaska Housing had dozens of mobile homes, and what they did is they started just demolishing them because it was just too much for the market to bear. So that was Alaska Housing's blunder, doing 30-year mortgage. Today, what you can get is you can get signature loans, you can get private financing. There's a couple of different methods for the residents to finance ownership of their home. A lot of them pay cash. So most of the residents are working. I say working poor. That sounds a little bit bad or judgmental, but they're on the lower rung of the economic scale, but that they're able to save money and they're able to buy homes for cash. So we see a lot of that.
Is there a lot of transfer, a lot of sales of these mobile homes?
Within the communities themselves, not that many. No, less than a stick-built neighborhood. If you look at a park compared to a residential neighborhood, there's less transfers of homes in the mobile home park than there are in the stick-built house. It's just they buy a house, they're there. It's their dream. And it might not be your dream or my dream or someone else's dream, but that doesn't make it any less important or any less vital in the housing market.
So in going through the Clayton properties, they're so efficiently built and designed. Many of them were 3 bedrooms, 2 baths,
right?
A nice kitchen, a living space. I suspect that's what you've got in your parks.
Right. We have every different kind of iteration of housing. We have 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. We have 2-bedroom, 2 baths. We have 4 bedrooms. It's whatever the homeowner wants. And the homeowner is free to remodel and upgrade and do whatever it is that they want for their home.
Okay. All right. So think of, I want to ask you then, as an investor, a mobile home park has long-term investment benefits as opposed to, say, for example, what I do residential land development. I sell off everything.
Yeah,
Right. But that's
you do that as a business.
right. You're right. Yeah. But your business is based more on reasonable acquisition and long-term.
Well, that's my personal. I have several hats. I have my brokerage hat. I do a lot of brokerage, obviously, and then separately, I have mobile home business. Then separately, I have RV business. Separately, I have commercial real estate, commercial properties that I own and manage. In every aspect of all of those investments has a degree of risk, and so you have to decide if that risk is too much for that reward. And every investment has a degree of return, so you'll weigh that. Is the risk worth the return? Like that.
I remember about 10 years ago when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you made an application for an RV park in Girdwood, Alaska, which we know is. Are you on the board then? Yes, I was.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to tell you how I voted, really, seriously. But tell me the difference between an RV park and what we've been talking about.
A mobile home community is a residential community.
Okay.
It's not stick built. Stick built is what we see when we're driving down the street in the summertime, and you see people hammering plywood up on 2x4s, and you see that being built. They're taking the sticks and they're building it on site. That's a stick built home. What we're talking about right now is mobile home communities, where these homes are manufactured in a factory, wherever, Pacific Northwest. And they come in and they situate in a mobile home community for the most part. An RV park, a recreational vehicle park, is more transient. So that would be people coming in from the States for the summer. They drive up their RV, camp out for a couple of days at Golden Nugget RV Park, decide where they're going to go from here. They go to Kenai, they go to Soldotna, they go to Denali. So they're camping out. It was that we call those camper parks, but we don't have any camper parks anymore. Okay. No one wants to pull in some of these rigs are $250,000. These are not inexpensive vehicles. So they don't want to pull in their very expensive vehicle and camp next to a young family that's doing tent camping, which is all good. It's just a different animal. No judgment. It's just a different animal. So that's an RV park. An RV park is what we're calling them now are tiny homes. What is a tiny home? A tiny home is an RV. It still has its tongue. It still has its axle. It still has everything. But it's on wheels. But it's on wheels, and they have it skirted so you don't see it. And thanks to HGTV, that's a very positive buzzword. Tiny homes. But you say RV? Not so much. But back when I submitted that proposal to the city and HLB, on HLB's request, they asked me to make a proposal in Girdwood because Girdwood needed it at that time. And
HLB is Heritage Land Bank.
Right.
They owned the property.
And that at that time, and still, of course, that was all floodplain. So that land that they wanted to do an RV park in would have been ideal because that floods all the time. Well, you can't damage an RV with flooding because you can just move the unit.
Makes sense.
I was disappointed that I had to back out of that. I had to back out of it. I had just way too much residents that were afraid that their Airbnb business would be negatively impacted. So I'm the largest RV park owner in the state. I was the logical person to do it, but I just didn't. There's a lot things I can do without getting a headache, and that was giving me a headache.
Right. Well, I understand that. So in an RV park, what do you provide? A space, right?
There's very varying differences on what you provide.
Okay.
Some spaces are every space has a little yard. Every space has a little patch of grass. Every space has access to the community room, which is community showers, which is a pavilion for picnics and barbecues with whoever they're traveling with. But not every space has water and sewer. So you might not want water and sewer. You might be fully contained, or you might want electrical for this much electric, or you might want electrical for this much electric. So it's so specifically my park has all of those things. You just decide what kind of amperage you want, and if you want water and sewer,
It's available.
Yeah, it's available. So all of those things are available. It just depends on what your mobile or your RV wants or needs.
You purchase mobile homes and manage them, and the same for RV parks. But who else is an investor? Okay, this type of housing.
Just a clarification, I do not own mobile homes. I
don't
own,
yeah.
Okay. I own the park.
Correct.
I don't buy any of the homes.
Okay.
That's not my business model. It is a business model. It's just not the one I personally do. But what we see right now in mobile home parks, RV parks, and mini storages, it is the entrance into the market from REITs, real estate investment trusts. So that's like a stock. You buy those on Wall Street, or an investment trust. You can invest in them. Those aren't small business people like I am. So they're not local. So they come in, and I've sold parks to them. It's just a different way of managing it. They're not looking at families. They're not handing out turkeys at Christmas time and hams at Thanksgiving.
They're looking for a rate of return.
And typically they come in, they raise rates, they treat it as a real, and it is a real business, but their business model is a bit different than a mom and pop. And truly, that's on my business. I'm a mom and pop.
So I'm surprised. I've always thought of Alaska as being sort of a different place. We only have a population of about over 600,000 people, even though geographically we have the largest square footage, not square footage, but miles and all that sort of thing. So, but we do have national investors like REITs here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we see that in every segment in the commercial market. We see REITs coming in and buying industrial properties. We see REITs buying multifamily residential or RV parks or mobile home parks. Yeah, there's a big entrance into that. They're looking for returns. They're not locked into a geographic area.
So what is there some of the requirements? I've heard about things like Fred Meyer's. Everybody wants a Trader Joe's, but we don't have the population for a Trader Joe's. But Target's here now, and they're expanding and all that sort of thing. So I guess what you're trying to say or teach me, actually what you're trying to teach me is this is a national, international market, even though we're Alaska.
Absolutely. Absolutely. These are investment trusts. These are investment groups. So they don't care if the address says Anchorage, Alaska, or Toadsuck, Arkansas. That's a real city. They don't. That's not important. What's important is the strength of that community, the bond rating of that community, the bond rating of that state, and the demographics. That's important. So they don't really care if their rent checks are coming from Alaska or California or North Dakota.
So Alaska in general is a good investment still? I mean, it has been, it has not been.
I think Alaska is a very, real estate really is, in my opinion, and I've done it 53 years, is a safe investment. You're able to leverage into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a safe investment. Alaska, I think, has its unique challenges, but then again, we have unique rewards. So, and that's all this is all about, trading risk for reward, and only you can decide what your risk tolerance is or your reward demand. And then if that works, I can find something for you.
I have to confess that as a small investor doing residential development, I tried to buy a townhouse once in Marina Del Rey, and I was never able to come to terms on it. But that's the only attempt I've ever made to buy and invest in real estate outside the state of Alaska. I'm terrified of doing that, actually.
My mother was like that.
Really?
She was very, very successful in Alaska, but that was her comfort level. That was her comfort level. She couldn't go outside of Alaska. It's not a judgment thing. It's however you want to do your investing.
All right. Okay. Do you invest outside of Alaska?
I do.
Because you actually worked for a bit.
Yeah, I headed up the commercial division for Encore International in Sonoma County, and was top producer at Grubb & Ellis for several years. So yeah, that doesn't
scare you?
It doesn't scare me. But that's from my bodybuilding days. I always like to go to failure. So
I appreciate you sharing all this information with us and a little bit of your personal story as well. We'll get on to more of that in different podcasts.
Oh yeah.
You have a different story to tell. I have a different story to tell, but somehow here we are doing this podcast and sharing our information.
It's totally mutual respect for one another's business acumen. Yeah.
You mean it's not just because we're short and look a little different?
No, that helps.
All right, that goes. Well, Lottie, I've learned a lot today about RV parks and mobile home communities, and I want to thank you for sharing all that information. You're very well with us. And our next episode is going to be at the top end of the housing ladder, the luxury home market. So stay tuned for our next podcast. And Lottie, thank you again for sharing all that information. I think mobile home parks and RV properties are sort of the best kept secret on the housing ladder. So thank you for sharing all that information with us. See you next time.
See you next time.